Okay, I wanted to go over what the moral theories are, what makes something a moral theory, and then the first one on our list, which is utilitarianism. So we can kind of think of moral theories as a comprehensive system that's going to give us a language for evaluating ethical situations. So you probably already have an idea of what you think is a good action, a bad action, a moral action, an immoral action. But these will allow you to say why. And in general, you'll find yourself fitting into one of these three theories. They're the most popular ones for a reason. They have a long tradition, and most people will fall into one of these categories. In fact, in many cases, you're going to find yourself associating with all three, and depending on the situation, you might choose one over another. And so, having this as a vocabulary for your ethics arguments is really why the moral theories are helpful. And so that's why I wanted to make a video for each one to make sure that you understand how they work, how you might be able to use them. As we come closer to the papers themselves, there will be a video about how to put these sorts of things into practice. For now, though, let's start with the first of the big three approaches, which is utility or utilitarianism. So the word utilitarianism comes from the word utility, which means something that's useful, something that's good, something that's beneficial. And that's basically what the theory is about. An action is good if it's beneficial, it's bad if it's harmful. This is usually put in terms of pleasure and pain. And so the first person that we look at with this view is a man named Jeremy Bentham, who broke this down into looking at pleasures and pains in terms of 7 different aspects. So we've got the full list of that in the textbook, but what he was basically observing is some pleasures are more intense than others, but that's not the only reason we might choose it. Some pleasures last longer than others. Some pains last longer than others, and therefore we might want to avoid them, even if they are lesser pains. Right? For example, you might get a shot of antibiotics while you're at the doctor's office because you want your strep throat to go away faster. Now, taking a pill would obviously be less painful, especially in the short term. Right? A shot hurts. But you might get that because you want to speed up your recovery. In other words, you want to reduce how long the pain of having strep throat or whatever is. So Bentham captured this with these 7 different steps. And probably the most complicated ones are fecundity and purity, which is just, will it produce more of the same down the road? Like if you graduate from college, you're going to be happy. Hopefully it also opens up doors to future happiness. Purity is more like, will this produce pleasure now but pain tomorrow? So if you drink too much alcohol, you might enjoy your evening, but the next day you're going to pay for it. And so Bentham was really trying to capture this idea that physical sensations of pleasure and pain are complicated. And so having these 7 steps allows us to apply this to particular situations and say more than just this hurts or this is pleasant, right? We can elaborate on that and give a lot more detail. Now, a later utilitarian named John Stuart Mill, who's very closely associated with the idea of utilitarianism, added that not all pleasures are the same, right? Hedonism is kind of simplified and just tells us that we have the sensation of pleasure and pain. But Mill noted that humans are capable of a higher level, like a different kind of pleasure. We're able to read books, listen to music, enjoy sports, right? Things that other animals just don't seem to be capable of enjoying. These are pleasures that are more sophisticated. And Mill thought that we found them more important as human beings. And so, while Bentham is measuring the amount of pleasure and pain, we could say that Mill is measuring the kind, right? This is a difference between quantity, amount, how much, and quality. What kind of thing is this? Right? So you could get more ice cream at Walmart by buying the most generic brand, right? You get more of it. But you might instead want to go to Jenny's or Grader's, right? Or Dairy Duchess and get better ice cream. It's going to cost more, right? You're not going to get as much for your money, but you're going to enjoy it in a different way because it's better in kind. That's basically what Mill adds to this. The final distinction in utility is act versus rule. It's very important because any particular action can be justified in a particular circumstance, right? Like we might justify stealing because the other person doesn't seem to be using whatever it is that they have, and we would get more use out of it. And maybe as a utilitarian, I could make that argument. But if we try to turn that into a rule, right? Saying something like, I can steal whenever I think I would get more use out of something than someone else, it clearly will lead to more pain than pleasure overall for society. So rule utility tries to add that level, and it makes it a bit closer to how we think of morality, right? A set of rules, things we're supposed to do or not do. And so rule utilitarians take the action, they universalize it, and then they look for the results. Now, it's going to be very important to separate rule utility from deontology, which we talk about in the next section. And the simple difference is that utilitarians look at results, deontology does not. At the end of the document, you're going to see some pros and cons, right? We start with some problems that people often mention, and then we have some benefits. These are mostly there to get you to understand the theory a little bit better, but also to help you decide when you want to use this theory in the class and when you might want to lean on another one. Okay, I want to keep these videos fairly short, so that's it for utility.